And now we're joined by Haley Hardy. Haley, you actually have a connection to UC. You used to work here. Tell us a little bit about kind of your background.
Yeah, so I'm actually a UC alum. I graduated in 2011. I played women's lacrosse here when I was a student athlete. And then I came back as a coach, and I coached here, and I coached the women's lacrosse team from, I believe it was 2021 to 2024.
Wow, so pretty recently.
Yes.
So in prior to 2024, prior to your job change, you had a cancer diagnosis. So kind of take us back to that and why, what were your symptoms? Tell us that whole story.
Yeah. So I was officially diagnosed in December of 2022, but I was having symptoms for months leading up to my diagnosis. I had my daughter in February of 2022. And so I think a lot of the symptoms initially were chalked up to that. Fatigue is one of the biggest early symptoms for myeloma patients. But as a new mom, it's hard to decipher what's fatigue and what's just, being a new mom. But then my symptoms got progressively worse. And my myeloma, like many myeloma patients, presented in my bones and led to bone fractures. By the time I was diagnosed, I had 12 fractures, 5 of those in my vertebrae. So was in a lot of pain, and that was a big kind of part of my healing once I was officially diagnosed in December of that year. And then I started treatment just about 2 days after Christmas of that year.
Did you kind of think, as a student athlete and then a coach, did you have experience with injuries and did you just chalk it up to, I guess from all those years of playing lacrosse, this is what I get? Or did you know that it was more serious than that?
Yeah, it progressed quickly, but initially, no. I had never even broken a bone
Wow.
before this. Sprained ankles and bruises and normal athlete stuff, but the pain started out really minimal, right? It starts with lesions in the bones, and so it was almost felt like soreness. I tried yoga and physical therapy and things like that initially, and then it just progressed to being such substantial pain that I knew something was wrong. I pretty much started treatment right away, and I remember very clearly, like, my main goal was to get out of pain. I was in so much pain, that was really all I could think about. And my doctor, my myeloma specialist, when I initially saw him, that was really my first question is, how do I get out of pain? And he said, as soon as you start treatment, that's the only way to get you out of pain, because that's what's going to stop the myeloma from progressing. And he was right. So I went into what they call induction therapy for myeloma, which for me was 4 months of chemo, followed by a stem cell transplant.
And it was your own stem cells, which is like fascinating from a scientific aspect. Had you ever heard of that? Was that new to you?
I barely passed high school biology, so all of this was way over my head, and I'm just so thankful that there's people whose brains work like that and can understand all the hematology stuff, because it is incredible, and I'm really fortunate that I could use my own cells. There's kind of a lot less to worry about than using donor cells, so I was really fortunate in that way.
Yeah, it was probably really a learning process. And I mentioned this earlier with another patient, but were you thinking to yourself, thank God I'm in Cincinnati. We've got this mecca of hospitals, and you were probably familiar with it going to UC, that we've got UC Health and all that. I mean, how did that play into your decision to stay and get treatment in Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's something my husband and I have talked about a lot, because we had only moved to Cincinnati 3 years prior. And before that, we lived for another coaching job in rural Virginia. And I actually have a close friend that's still there who was going through melanoma at the time. And she was driving 2.5 hours to Charlotte for her treatments and to see a good doctor. So we're so grateful that we live here in Cincinnati with amazing health. And again, grateful to be diagnosed in the year that I was, because if I had even been diagnosed 10 years prior, the life expectancy was roughly 3 years. So the progress in myeloma specifically has been quite incredible.
And you talked about previously that for your age, it's very rare for somebody to have that kind of myeloma, which is why it took a while for you to get diagnosed.
Yeah. So less than 1% of myeloma patients are under the age of 40. So it definitely wasn't the first conclusion any doctor I saw was jumping to. I don't have any family histories of blood cancers or anything, so it took a while to get to diagnosis. I've since connected with a lot of folks in their 30s, you know, that do have myeloma, but it is particularly rare because truly working and coaching at UC had been my dream. I'm an alum. I love the head coach there. I love the athletic director. I just love UC. And I knew throughout my career and moving around and growing and getting promoted that that's where I wanted to land. And I was there and I loved it as much as I had assumed I would. So having a thought of like, I don't think I should be doing this anymore was kind of crazy to even like work through myself. But I really feel like, and I think a lot of patients say this, I think I came out of cancer a bit of a different person. I was really itching to get back to the person that I was, but I don't think there was any going back. There was only growing into somebody new. You know, I wanted to, once I entered survivorship and entered remission, wanted to slam the door on cancer for as long as I could, not talk about it. But I knew that there were people and women and probably moms just like me that were about to go down the path that I had gone. And I wanted to put myself in a position to help those folks. And I didn't really know what that looked like. You know, I said on my job interview with Blood Cancer United, like, I am not a researcher. Like, you don't want me in your lab, right? I don't know how to move the needle, but I think I can do this. I think I can fundraise. I think I can raise awareness, and I think I can use my skill set to, you know, make whatever change I can. Blood Cancer United is just formerly Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Our mission is the same. But late August of this year, we moved forward with a name change and just an overall brand change, with that mission really remaining the focus. But we really kind of learned as an organization that leukemia and lymphoma kind of felt isolating and exclusive to people. And so did the word society. You know, we didn't want this to feel like something people had to belong to. We wanted it to feel like a landing place for blood cancer patients and all of those, especially the myeloma crowd. There's 104 different types of blood cancer, and we wanted to make sure that we reach all of those patients. So this was about inclusivity and having a name that reflects those values. That Blood Cancer United is, we don't want it to be the best kept secret. Anyone that's going through a diagnosis or has someone close to them going through a blood cancer diagnosis, like, we're here for you. We have financial resources. We have help. We have clinical trial resources. Like, just come to us with whatever you need and we'll help you figure it out. You're really not alone, and that's what our organization is here for.
Yeah.